Good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream. I'm going to do our April the 23rd, just for today, in a meditation. The title of the meditation for today, A God of Our Own Understanding. Many of us understand God to be simply whatever force keeps us clean. That comes from the basic text, page 25. Some of us enter recovery with a working understanding of a higher power. For a lot of us, however, God is a troublesome word. We may doubt the existence of any sort of power greater than ourselves, or we may remember uncomfortable experiences with religion and shy away from the God stuff. Starting over in recovery means we can start over in our spiritual life too. If we're not comfortable with what we learned when we were growing up, we can try a different approach to our spirituality. We don't have to understand everything all at once or find the answers to all our questions right away. Sometimes it's enough just to know that other NA members believe and that their belief helps keep them clean. Just for today, all I have to know right now about my higher power is that it is the power that keeps me clean, that helps keep me clean. Let me repeat that. Just for today, all I have to know right now about my higher power is that it is the power that keeps me clean. Let's take a moment of silence followed by the we version of Serenity Prayer. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please and thank you. Well, I greet you this morning. I want to talk about this meditation and, at the end there, thinking about the just for today and rereading it, still not getting it right. The second time, I just surrender. I just surrender. Every day is not going to be a perfect day with the podcast. So I just surrendered that. I'm sitting here today in my bed. I usually don't uh, do the recording from my bed, but I'm sitting here today uh, with some ailments and knowing that I need to get up. It's around 5 in the morning. I've been up since 4. Um, and I just decided to do some self care today before I get going with the boys. But in order to do that, I need to get up a lot earlier because the podcast takes so much time to read and record and do the second one. And that takes time. And so I just decided today that I would do all of my personal self-care, prayer and meditation, all of that stuff that is important to me. I would do those things before I do the podcast. And I've reached the point of doing the podcast this morning and just exhausted, So bear with me today. I want to talk about a God of our own understanding. And I want to talk about my experience with that because I'm one of these individuals that um, when I came into recovery, I had an understanding of a higher power, but I would not say that it was a working understanding of a higher power. And I was one of those individuals that needed to revamp my belief because the former belief that I had just would not work for this addict. Right. I needed to be honest about the fact that I was an addict And at no point in time with my former belief of a higher power would that work well, because that religious understanding meant that you were not using drugs. There was no room for using drugs and claiming to have a relationship with a higher power. The two did not go together. So I say that to say that the majority of my pre-recovery life was spent feeling self-loathing, feeling condemnation, feeling disgust, feeling like I didn't fit, and always had to justify my mere existence because I was an addict. And because of being an actively using addict, I dropped the ball on that belief over and over again, not understanding why I was not able to meet the standards of the religion. I couldn't meet the standard of the religion because there was piety written into, right, the infrastructure of the particular religion that I was involved in. And being an addict, we already know. There's so many moving pieces in our lives, but the main power that's greater than ourselves is the drug. So many moving pieces, but I could not catch the ball and keep it and hold it for the rest of the play because there were other things that were distracting me. And getting high was one of them. Now, I can tell my own story, but you can double check your own, right? You can double check your own experience, strength, and hope and see where you land. If you're my age, and let's just say nearing close to 60, if you're my age, then 9 times out of 10, if you were raised in this country, you had a similar higher power. You had a similar experience with religiosity. But if you're a lot younger, you may not have had that experience at all because there's so many, at least 2 generations behind me, right? So not the direct one behind me, but 2 generations behind me. And then the third and a fourth, right? There's these generations that started to be born when I hit my 20s, right? So I'm calculating, late 1980s, the 90s, right? The 2000s. That particular generation, those generations, right, may not have ever even been in a religion. They may not have that experience. So imagine not having any of that structure and then using drugs. You don't even have a go-to, right? The TV raised you, right? The morality that those generations often learn didn't have anything to do with religion for a lot of, not the majority. I'm just saying for a lot, right? And so imagine coming into recovery without ever having had a pointed discussion about a higher power or a God of your own understanding. And then being told that you need one. Okay, so some of them have to start building from ground zero, but it's really not all that different from where I started. Because the religion that I had, the faith that I had, the higher power that I had, it wasn't working. It was not a working understanding of a higher power. That first sentence does not apply to me. I mean, in a sense, it did because I came in with the baggage of religion, but I didn't have a working understanding of a higher power because it didn't work. And most of us can relate to that because the higher power that we actually had, the power that was greater than ourselves, would be the drugs and whoever we needed to bow down to or worship just to be able to get the drugs. Yesterday we talked a little bit about, the fact that our needs, our understanding, what we wanted was the main thing in our lives. Our opinion was the main thing in our lives, unless surrendering to someone else's opinion meant that we could get high, that we could get what we wanted. So we were manipulative. At the very least, we were manipulative. And so today, starting over in recovery means that we get to start over our spiritual life too. It comes with the package, or I should say, it's a given. And that we get to start over our spiritual journey. But this time it's a lot different. We realize we get to have a say in how that unfolds. And I think for me, that Narcotics Anonymous has been the most freeing experience that I've had. It's allowed me to come to an understanding of God that works with who I am. And it's given me permission to say, long as your higher power works with who you are, I'm really not all that interested. I mean, I can have dialogues about it, but I'm not in a position to judge it. I try to be understanding of the fact that not everyone has a higher power that works for them. Some people experience spiritual confusion, spiritual conflict, because they're not able to make a distinction between religiosity and spirituality. For them, it's one and the same. And I hope that's not you, because there's a lot of growth to be had in being able to separate religiosity from spirituality. Religiosity can only take you so far. And when you get to the end of that, when you get to the top of how far it can go, or the length of how far religiosity can take you, if you're an addict, you're going to find that you're still left with your disease of addiction. And there's still work for you to do. See, because the disease of addiction is not the symptom of the disease, which is picking up the drug. The symptom of the disease of addiction is that we pick up drugs. But that's just one symptom. So even if religiosity and the doctrines within your religion and how you understood your higher power to be cause you to put the drug down, you're still left with a internal change that needs to happen. And that can only come by doing the work where you acknowledge your liabilities, your assets. You sift through those with someone you trust. You understand what your character defects are and how they cause you to fall short. Step 7. And then you make a list of the people you've harmed. And then, wherever possible, you make direct amends to them. You don't necessarily get that walking into religiosity, that understanding. So my hope today would be that you are afforded an opportunity to go from religiosity to spirituality. And if you're not a person coming out of religiosity, and you have an opportunity to start with a clean slate without a bunch of baggage from the past religiously, my hope is that you will go even further and not stay away from development because you are confusing spirituality and religiosity. You have a clean slate. Regardless to what was on the slate before, even if it was nothing, it's still a clean slate once you get to recovery, and it affords you opportunity to uh, participate. How about that one? Participate in your recovery in a way that will work. It's all good, guys, all good vibes from here. It's not only if you don't allow it to be. My name is MightyStream. I've enjoyed talking to you today. I hope that you'll have a beautiful day on purpose.